Welcome to episode 4 of Monochrome Music Media. Today I've got a very special guest, got Matty from Decay. Do you want to just tell us what you do in Decay?
Yeah, so I'm the bassist, the forgotten member. Yeah, but nice one for having me on, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much for coming on, man. So obviously we're doing this at 2 a.m. That's a vibe, isn't it?
A few drinks in, a few rums in, but yeah, we're doing it good, doing it the right way.
Exactly, man. So yeah, thanks again for coming on. So also, first off, I just want to touch on like your history in the band and just like the band in general. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was almost a latecomer, really. I mean, so obviously played bass in a band called Decay. Before that, prior, we were a band called Pine, which I was not really a part of, but I did join them in the later stages of what Pine was, I suppose. You know, the bassist left on good terms. I was good mates with the bassist too, and I kind of messaged them all. I wanted to be a part of the project. They were good lads. I got on with them all, and yeah, we kind of got a couple of months playing gigs as Pan, and then we thought we're going to change the name, change the project, delete all the songs, start again, and Decay was born, I suppose. And yeah, we've not done too bad since then, I suppose.
I think you guys have done great. Yeah.
We want to do better, as everyone does, I suppose, but I can't complain at all. We've done better than what I ever thought I would, in all fairness. So yeah, it's been a great experience, in all fairness.
Yeah, also you guys have again, the Liverpool scene's been a really vastly different one from I remember when I lived there. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't think you guys were really around when I lived there. I was 16, so that would have been like 6 years ago or something.
Yeah. I don't even
Yeah.
think Pine was a thing at the time. So
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a
yeah.
very different scene now. But you guys have got a decent discography under your belt, I'd say, given the
Yeah, I
time.
mean, we've been helped a lot by when we did become Decay. We quite quickly got signed to Fox Record, which was a massive help because they did finance the recordings for the EP, the album that we put out, which is, I'm sure you know yourself, as a small
Mhm.
band, that's it's the hardest part to find the
Oh
money.
yeah, it's an expense for sure, especially like if you're working with a good producer.
Exactly, which we did. In all honesty, I mean, I always say this about the fella who recorded and produced us. It was a lad, Ian Sandler, who lives down south, Kent Ways, who's an absolute genius. I mean, he has to take credit for a lot of the more small details in the songs. I mean, every time we went there for the EP and the album, he just, I don't know, he added a lot to the songs, a hell of a lot to the songs, and I can't take away. I would feel uncomfortable recording with anyone else. I'd say it that way.
That
He's
one,
yeah,
yeah.
really good guy, really good atmosphere too. I mean, I don't know if you've had this experience yourself, Jamie, but sometimes it can be a pressurized environment. Because you're on a
Especially
time
if you're
scale.
working on, when you're working on a time constraint and stuff, it can be really tough because I've got to get these harmonies done, I get these
Exactly.
mid
And when it's
tones
not
and
your
all
money
sorts.
too, it's even more pressurized because you're thinking, God, I'm not paying for this stuff. So, it can be quite a lot more difficult. But no, he was great because he doesn't just make you feel confident in what you're doing, but he also pushes you to make it that there's little noodles in just a bass line, for me example, which people mightn't really even hear when they listen to it, but for me, I listen back to the songs and I think it changes the whole dynamic, right? And it might just be an octave, it might just be one little note or a little slide, but as a person recording it, it just changed the whole dynamic. So yeah, big up Ian Sadler. He's an absolute fucking genius. Do you know what I mean? He's a good man too, really sound guy. I
I'm
would
pretty
recommend
sure
any. Go on, sorry.
I read an interview about the album and he's worked with quite a few like decent bands, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know we recorded a few of Rome's EPs.
Mm-hmm.
Them first ones, Coast to Coast too, which I
Label
know,
mates, yeah.
yeah, on the same label. They're not a band now, unfortunately, but to this day, probably the best band I've seen live. I mean,
I actually
absolutely
didn't know
unreal.
they didn't know the split because I know obviously during like the first proper lockdown they put out an acoustic EP or something, didn't they?
Yeah, they've just released another 3 songs now, but they were the almost send off songs. right? So,
Oh,
yeah, I couldn't comment on it because I'm not too
yeah, of
sure behind the
course.
scenes, but they were probably the first band in my experience of being in that scene that were not just welcoming, but I can't really give them enough credit. I mean, they're incredible musicians. I mean, I, I was on a podcast the other week and I said this on that podcast, but the bassist Zach Taylor, incredible musician. I mean, he has a lot of solo stuff too. Anyone listening to this, definitely check out Zach Taylor's solo stuff because he's a genius. I mean, he deserves a lot more plays than what he's got at the moment. He's
I'll make sure to plug that in the description and stuff anyway. But yeah, that's cool.
definitely. But yeah, I'm gutted. We're probably right now the only active band on the label at the moment, so we're trying to fly the flag for Fox, so to speak.
I don't know. I think he's done a pretty solid job of that. Obviously, with the album and stuff, the album's been really well received. Obviously, getting on Dreambound and stuff, that is that's massive.
Yeah, that was very last minute too. In all fairness, I mean, we didn't find out until the day that we were getting released on there. I got told about 11 in the morning, and we were getting released on Dreambound at 9 at night. Fuck me, man! And, like my head fell off. I was like, "What Dreambound? That's insane!" I mean, on YouTube, it's the most plays we've had on a song, and we didn't even have a video.
25K, I think it's on
Yeah,
now.
something
For Misery.
far more than what I would ever expect any song I was a part of to have. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, no, it's been insane. The comments on the video too on that Dreambound, I mean, they were so nice. Like people saying about how don't know who we are, love the sounds, all this kind of stuff. It's always nice to hear, always.
Yeah, like obviously you look at the caliber of bands that are on that channel as well. Like you got Noia, Casey being the
Yeah,
big one, Captives, they're also huge. There's loads. So yeah, definitely. I'll also put that in the description. Don't worry. Make sure people go and check that out because if people aren't at least on Dreambound, they should go and listen to Misery. It's one of my personal favourites from the album.
I appreciate it. I mean, we were speaking just earlier, weren't we? I mean, I know there was a few songs I personally felt that were kind of misses on the album. I felt like they were I don't want to put it down. Maybe one or two of them a little bit of filler, but on the whole, I was quite happy with the finished product. I have to admit, though, maybe a little bit controversial. I was, I think, REP Modern Conversation. I think that's a more well-rounded, um, with a better sound to it. But you live and you learn, and we are working on some new stuff now. We're trying to branch out of that kind of title fight basement sound. We kind of want to do something maybe something a little bit different, in all
Yeah.
fairness, because I think that's important. I always refer back to artists like Bowie and Pixies and, you know, bands like that where they never really even bring me to Horizon, to some extent where they don't stick to one kind of sound. It's important to branch out and just try different stuff. And the thing that we always, as a band, agree on, I think, is you've got to do it for yourself, right? You can't do it just to get numbers and get streams and get plays. You've just got to do it because you like the sound of what you're making. That's what the most important thing is, I think.
Yeah, I mean that obviously the bands that I've spoken to so far have all very much said the same thing. It's like you don't
Yeah,
want to box yourself in because that's not really
no,
what it's about. It's about just doing something that sounds good to you, feels right, and of course experiment. Like you're still a young band, to be honest. You've got
a small band
all
too. We have that credit, I think, where as a small band, you can get away with experimenting more because I think at a certain level, there's a pressure to still, not always, but I feel like there's a pressure to deliver to what the expectations you've built up,
yeah, of
right? So
course,
I think we need to take full advantage of the fact that we're still, relatively speaking, quite a small band. I mean, there'll be plenty of people that would look at us and go, "Oh, I wish we could do X and Y and Z what you've done," but I try not to take almost any notice of that in a sense because it's meaningless. These little wins, it means fuck all, in my opinion. I don't think it means anything. I think the only time it means something is when you've got, well, like I said to you, the things that mean more to me is less about plays or streams or likes or shit like that. It's more, for example, when I seen you tweeting about us, someone I didn't know, and that to me meant a lot more than X amount of streams we've got or how well the album was received and stuff like that. As nice as all that stuff is, it's
yeah.
you know, I wouldn't say meaningless, but I think there's stuff that's more important, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of music. Obviously, with live music, obviously we're missing that a lot now. But like forming connections with people, that
Definitely.
is such a massive part of it. And you can look at, say 10K streams, 20K streams, 100K streams, but it's nothing if you can't put a face to the people that are listening to
Exactly.
the
It
music.
means a lot
So
more. I
yeah,
mean, the fact that we're chatting, you know, over Zoom right now on a podcast, it wouldn't have happened if we unorganically just pushed a load of bots to listen to our songs, right? Do you know what I mean? Like it just wouldn't have happened. It's important to do it organically, and if there is anyone listening who's fucking, you know, thinking about starting a band and doing stuff like that, that would be the only thing I would ever say to anyone who's starting a band. Do it organically, because, you know, 2,000 streams organically means more than 50,000 streams via bots and via paying for the shit, you
yeah,
know, in any sense of the word. It might not feel like that way when you're not at that point, but it does, because you always want more. You know, even in our position, I look at us and think, I want more. And I think even if we were on Hopeless Records and we had millions of streams, I would still want more. Do you know what I mean? But it's the way it works. You're never going to be satisfied about these petty kind of likes, streams, these kind of things. You know, you're always going to want more in any sense of the word.
yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, we spoke a little bit about like PR releases and stuff like that, and they can be great for obviously, gathering streams and traction and stuff, but there's got to be, I guess, an emotional vulnerability with the delivery of what you've got. You can't just be like new song stream now.
Definitely not.
Like,
And yeah, I mean, like, that's what
got to
I
be
take.
personal.
Definitely, I don't like write the lyrics to our songs. Obviously, it's our lead singer Danny, but that's one of my favorite things about the songs we write. It's when I listen back to the lyrics, when I listen back to the songs, I mightn't have wrote it, but it's something that is not just to him, but it's a worldwide thing where it's deeply personal, right? And it's something that people on some level can relate to. And to me, as you say, that's more important than any number of streams. I mean, if you try and do it with a view to get, you know, X amount of plays, you've set yourself up to fail in every sense of the word. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
In
like
my
one
opinion,
thing I actually noticed about like the album in particular, weirdly, I obviously have some favorite songs, tends to be the heavier songs for the most part, just
yeah,
personal taste. But the part in 23 that's really kind of more stripped, I think that's the most haunting part of like the whole album, the closer, where it's really everything just kind of dies down for a little bit for full band comes in again. It is deeply intimate.
yeah. That was not really an accident, really, because we wanted to get a mix of them softer kind of songs. So you've got songs like Staring at the Sun, Even Empty Feeling, these kind of songs where it's not quite that raw, punky, you know, in your face kind of in the way that Misery is or Ache is, or these kind of songs. And I think 23 was probably the only example of that, as you say, that raw, stripped down kind of sound, I suppose. And we wanted to kind of hit without kind of trying to just jump into 10 different genres on an album. We wanted to just, I don't know, maybe make some songs a bit more radio friendly, maybe make some songs a bit more accessible, because as much as you're not doing it for other people, you want people to, who are not necessarily into that emo-y post-hardcore kind of heavy genre, we want it to be accessible. You know, we want people to discover, say, Staring at the Sun and go, oh yeah, that's, you know, a tune I like, and then maybe listen to other songs on the album and listen. I don't know, it's not going to be to everyone's taste, and I accept that, and I wouldn't expect it to be too. You know, I actually really enjoy the criticism more than I enjoy the compliments, because it's fucking so important that someone goes, actually, that's shite, you know, in a way. I know that's not the most constructive thing someone can say, but I just think it's important that you have that brutal honesty. I mean, you know, I get it from me close friends all the time, where they're not afraid to go, actually, that doesn't sound very good. This doesn't sound very good. And I, people take it to heart sometimes. I don't really. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a important aspect to have when you're in a band. You need people in there to go, actually, that's shite. that doesn't work. This doesn't work.
Yeah,
But,
I guess the term would be you don't just need people blowing smoke up your ass because you want to be better. Yeah.
I think blowing smoke up your ass is like the worst thing for me, anyways. I don't know about you, but it's the most off-putting thing when I meet someone.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
thankfully
the
it's
same,
few and
man.
far between, but it puts me off a person if I feel like they're just going. And you can tell the difference between a genuine compliment and what someone's just almost trying to gain, right? And
yeah, like if you turn around and show your family member a song, they're not gonna be like, "Oh, that's kind of shit," you know? Yeah,
it's fair enough. Yeah, I like it. You know, it sounds a bit weird to say, but I think it's more real than someone just saying, "Oh, every song you've ever done is great." And don't get me wrong, people will have that opinion, and I love that. It's great. It's it's a really nice thing to hear, and I'm not discrediting that, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that blowing smoke up someone's ass just doesn't help them. Just doesn't help anyone. It makes you look like a twat, and it also doesn't help us musically, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really help you grow. Yeah, that's perfect though, man. I get that. Like, obviously, you guys will be working on new music at various
Yeah.
points through lockdown and stuff. So, hopefully, we'll get to hear some of that soon.
We've got a tape coming out. It's a repress of Modern Conversation. We as a band, we all kind of felt that Modern Conversation was, because it was so early in our career as a band, it was almost swept under in
Yeah, like
comparison to
slept
them.
on in comparison to the album. Yeah, because it
Yeah,
definitely has its bangers. Like, obviously, everybody probably knows Slow Decline because that's the song that got the most attention.
yeah. Even to this day, I think it's got the most plays. Really, ironically, I think it's actually. I don't get me wrong, I like the tune in all fairness, but it's probably my least favorite song on the EP. Which,
Do you think
yeah, it's
that's
all
just through, I don't know, like maybe hearing it more than the other songs because the people around you?
definitely. Yeah, it's not that I'm like I like the song. I just it was the one that we did a music video about. I'm kind of notorious in the band for not being very good with music videos. I don't like them. I don't
Hard to
mind doing the
relate.
podcast.
There's nothing worse than getting a camera shoved in your face to highlight all of your
Mate,
insecurities, man.
honestly, I mean, the way we shot Slow the Can too. I mean, the lad who shot it, Matty Daly, genius, like really good. We've actually got a reshape of the band at the moment, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but he's potentially going to be the drummer. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
No, don't worry. If it's not allowed, then I'll cut it.
No, but he's to be fair to him, he always said I'm the worst person that he's ever had to deal with in a shoot because I'm so I don't like the camera, man. I just don't like the camera. I mean, like I said, I don't mind it in a podcast format because I'm quite a chatty guy. I can bounce off that kind of feeling. But when someone wants me to look kind of cool, it's it's out my comfort zone almost. It's the same thing I struggle with playing live. It's an intense thing. I'm sure you get it yourself. Band photos is a good
Yeah,
example of
man.
it. Yeah,
Though when
it's
you're
not
just
good.
like stood there and you're like, what the fuck do I do with my hands? I don't normally have to
Exactly,
pose. I'm
man.
not a
Yeah.
model. I'm an emo musician.
Yeah, I think also I worry a lot about who's walking past, in just kind of like a general sense, and I always
Them
think
in
in my head,
public.
yeah, like what the fuck are they thinking? Like they probably looking at me thinking, he thinks he's fucking the shit and all this, blah blah blah, which is not the case,
Scouse Justin Timberlake over here,
Yeah,
pouting,
exactly,
pouting his lips, tilting his chin
exactly,
to the sky.
yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, no, it's been good though. It's been good. I can't complain. I mean, I was kind of out the music scene for a few years. I did actually gig with another band when I was about 12, 13. And then I had a few years where I just kind of, in all honesty, just fucking sat around smoking weed, playing video games. I didn't do anything with my life really. I was a bit of a boring bastard. And then I think I was in like my second year of uni. I broke up with the girl, and then I kind of went, you know what? I'm gonna pick up the bass again, start playing again, and that's kind of when I got back into music. And I wouldn't look back now because it's just, I don't know, the greatest thing on any level, though, whether you're big or you're small. I just think it's amazing. It's just a good outlet, I think.
Yeah, that's the best part of it. Like anybody can do it if they have the means, I guess.
Literally
Yeah.
anyone can do it. Yeah, yeah. And fucking, like I say, anyone listening, don't be sat there thinking you can't do it, because if I can do it, as you say, anyone can fucking do it, man. Literally anyone can do it.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like I tell people, I started learning to sing about 2 months before I formed the tear, so I couldn't sing.
You've got a good set of pipes on you too, man. You
Thanks
have got
very
a good
much,
set
man.
of pipes, man. Yeah, I'm jealous of that. Like, singing doesn't come, it doesn't come naturally to me at all. And in all fairness, I couldn't do it. I don't have the confidence to be a front man. I mean, I'm in awe of Danny, the lead singer of our band, because fucking hell, the confidence he shows on stage is cool. Like, it's just nice. Like,
He's
I
very
wish I had
much. I think that's a front man thing. He's very much a character. I
very
guess
much.
like it sounds dumb, but you can kind of tell just by how someone carries herself.
I think what's ironic though, I mean, we speak about this a lot, within the band, outside of a gig, playing live, I'm the most chatty out of all of us, right? He's the last person, and he'll say this himself, has a lot of anxieties. He doesn't like to meet new people, doesn't like to speak to loads of people. But once he gets on that stage, he's a different animal, and it's, in a way, it's really impressive to see, because it you're witnessing someone overcoming them anxieties that they clearly face in a day-to-day life, and it's shit that I can't relate to, really. Not in the same way, and it's cool to see. It's not just getting into it. He really believes in it. I mean, he's out of all of us, I think he's probably the most driven and the most, you know. Well, in all fairness, they all are. I'm probably the most laid back. In all fairness, I'm the one who probably takes a backseat, which is which is, you need different. We spoke about
Yeah,
this, didn't we?
you need
Yeah.
different like types of people in a band. Like, and that's the thing when you're in a car, man. You've got somebody driving, you've got and other people in the passenger seat. You know.
You all have different roles too, I think. I mean, I know for myself, I kind of put myself in the role of someone who doesn't take it as too serious, but it's not that I don't believe in what we're doing. It's more of the fact that, I like to just take that backseat. Whereas you've got someone like Danny who does take it really serious, who does care about how we come across. And, I'm sure if he watched this this kind of podcasty interview thing back, he'll probably see fucking 10 things that I've said and go, no, don't say that, because he's really conscious of how we come across, whereas I kind of have that mindset of, fuck it, say what I
Yeah.
say, as we spoke about, bit too honest for my own good, I suppose.
Well, don't worry. If he's got any problems, like we said, he can come on and correct them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is why I'm kind of kept in the background generally.
That's cool, man. No, but that's the best part. Like when you've got different types of people bouncing off of each other, obviously. But like on
It's
the topic of
important,
that, like yeah, exactly. Like, on the topic of that, obviously, do you guys would you say have a certain type of ethos or mantra as a band? Is it like something you'd say you're trying to portray through it?
I think actually, almost in an opposite way to that. I think the reason that we work so well is we don't, not one of us really thinks too highly of what we do, and not to our detriment. We're all confident in what we do. We love what we do, but we've never to this point got to a situation where we thought that we're better than someone who's maybe not quite done what we've done, right? Like, we don't really look down on other bands who maybe aren't on a label, because to me that would be something that would make me leave a band. If I got the sense of an elitism, or the only mantra I suppose that we do have is we want to make music for us, and we want to make music because we enjoy doing it. And I think I could speak for all of us in this sense. If it ever got to the point where any one of us felt like we were pushing some kind of image or look, or this kind of set in stone thing, to me that would be something that would put me off completely. I can't really handle stuff like that, because it just feels so disingenuous and so dishonest. And listen, like, I know it has its place and it has its benefits, but I'd rather be an unsuccessful band with doing something that we enjoy doing, rather than try and push something that we think would be successful, if you get what I mean.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely, man.
we do it because we enjoy it. That's the only reason we do what we do. We don't make any money off it. We've never made any money off it. And I couldn't care less about us being a successful band. If that ever happened, that's a fantastic thing to come off the back of what we've done. But for me personally, and I know for the rest of the lads, it's just not important really. Our mantra is do it for ourselves, and that's it. You know,
I think that's the best way to be, man. Like, I think I've already said this before, speaking to one of the other bands, but it's just a statement that, like, through art, we are all equals, you know?
definitely, and I think it's the most. I think it's, you know, in my opinion, anyways, nothing turns me off a band more than when I get the feeling that they're being, in any sense, patronising or looking down on someone. I think it doesn't matter how big you are as a band. I would be, for example, you know, say if I got offered a tour with a fucking world famous band, you know, everyone knew them. If I felt like they looked down on us, fuck them. I wouldn't want to do that shit. And it doesn't really matter about what we could gain from it. I've got my own ideals and models, you know, and I don't really put up with that shit. I'm not going to name any names and that, but I've only had one experience of a band where I felt that way, and I found it quite hard to not just fucking, you know.
I actually, once we finish recording, I'll give you a story, but I'm not airing the dirty laundry out on the podcast.
Yeah,
But
no,
I've got a
same.
story
Yeah,
for you.
nah, no, you know, I'm the same really, because I'm not here to fucking slag people off on that, but at the same time, it's my biggest gripe, and it's something that would instantaneously put me off a band. You could be fucking Muse, U2, you could be Coldplay. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you look down on me, you're a wanker. You're nothing to me. And you know, it might sound stupid to say, but that's the way I view it, because I know for a fact if I was on, say, a neck deep level, I would never look down on a band, and I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like if I see a band who maybe only have a few hundred plays, if I like the shit, you know, I couldn't give a fuck about the streams or how many people to get to a show. If I like it, I'm gonna treat them just the same as us, because I think, like I mentioned to you, Jamie, the point I always make is plays and streams. It's, say, half of it is good music, half of it is like, you know, that kind of thing, but a big majority too is good luck and good PR. You know, if you have good PR behind you and a good bit of luck where the right person is, yeah, you're gonna do well. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily a better band. I mean, let's compare the tier to Decay. I mean, I wouldn't sit here and turn around and go, "Oh yeah, Decay are fucking 10 times better," because that's just not true. It's not true at all, because the fact is, we've been lucky enough to have a label that's pushed enough money to give us the PR to record our stuff on a fantastic production level. Now that's a privilege in any sense of the word, and it's not reflective of our ability. We've just been lucky enough to be given that opportunity. And there's thousands of bands, in my opinion, that go completely under the radar with maybe even 10, 15 streams. I spoke before the stream, earlier on, sorry, about Zach Taylor, who doesn't get half as much streams as what he deserves. Is he a bad musician? Is he a bad songwriter? No, he's one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, you know, bang on. But, you know, we've just had the credit of having a PR pushing. So I don't think that's the a long-winded way to say it, I suppose, but that's the man's to me. You shouldn't be looking down on no bands, maybe, if they aren't doing as well as you, because it means fuck all. You know, it's luck and it's PR. That's what it comes down to.
I definitely think that's one that's gonna help you guys as well going forward, like staying humble and stuff. Obviously, you're gonna make more useful connections, and not just because you need to make connections, just because that's how it happens when you treat people with respect and dignity.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way I look at it too, I was kind of raised by my dad in this kind of mindset. I was, even in a pub, you don't know who you're speaking to, right? And me having that mindset, say for instance, me and you speaking and being, you know, get on really well and having a good relationship, for all I know, you could be, and this isn't the reason why, but I'm just kind of making the point of, you need to go through life with that mindset, because for all I know, in 5 years, you could be in a fucking world famous band. You know, you could be in
Yeah.
this absolute powerhouse of a band. And if I would have initially, when we spoke, treated you like a cunt and kind of went, "Oh, you know, fuck them. It's, you know, they're not quite enough," and all this kind of elitist shite,
Hmm.
then it's a detriment to not just you as a person, but any opportunity that could potentially come up to, you know. And again, I don't want to sound fucking preachy and that, but for anyone who is in a up and coming band or whatever it might be, I think that's something that you need to stick with. And if there is anyone in your band who has that different mindset, fuck them off straight away. Get them out that band as quick as possible. I mean, I was in a band before Decay, which there's a lad, he's called Will. I went to uni with him. Fantastic songwriter. I mean, it's actually a shame he's not had any success with being in a band, because he's actually one of the best songwriters I've ever met in my life. He's incredible. But I left that band because the drummer was a wanker and he was elitist. He looked down on people, and I thought, you know what, fuck yeah, like it's not worth me hassle. And I couldn't care less where they went on to after that. It just, that's not what I'm about. I couldn't abide by that, you know, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've stumbled upon a fair amount of musicians. You know, been studying music for a long time now, like 5 years of my life. So I get that, man. It's these people come and go. These people usually go rather than come and stay.
Definitely.
Um,
And no one's bigger than what you're doing too. I mean, you know, as we've spoke about, as a band, we had a situation where we had to kick a lad out who was the primary songwriter, and you know, it wasn't up for discussion. Yeah, has it made it a bit harder? For sure, but he's not bigger than the band, you know, in no sense of the word. We're gonna be fine because, you know, we're gonna draw together and we're gonna fucking chip in all as one. No one's bigger than a band in the same sense of, when you look at, say, as an analogy, you look at, say, like a football team and you think, you know, no one's bigger than the football team. It's that same kind of mindset. This kind of stuff isn't important. It's the only important thing about being in a band is pulling together, having the right mindset and doing it the right way, you know, and being grounded. I think, and it is hard to be grounded sometimes. I mean, I know we got played on the BBC and fucking my ego went, "Ugh," you know, and I had to kind of take myself down a step and go, actually, it means fuck all. It means fuck all, you know, this kind of thing. But that's my mindset, and I think it's important to carry that through, no matter what incredible things you might end up doing. You need to also take yourself down a peg and be surrounded by people that will take you down a peg too and go, actually, you're not all that. You're a nobody in a sense of the word, if you get what I mean. You know, no one gives a fuck what you're doing, and I think that's important to remember. No one cares about you. No one cares about your music. No one owes you nothing. You've got to do it for yourself.
yeah, definitely. That's the main thing, man. Like, obviously, it's going to give you guys more opportunities in the future going forward as well, because people hold a high opinion of you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope so. You know, I do. You know, and in the same sense, though, if it doesn't, then so be it. You know, I'd rather, like I say, I'd rather be unsuccessful with that mindset than be successful with the opposite mindset, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely agree, man. So that's great. But moving on, like obviously you guys have worked with a few creatives, it's fair to say, like, with your artwork or,
Yeah.
photography, that kind of stuff, music videos and recording. Is there like anybody that you've really, really enjoyed working with that, it's just kind of been essential to the band?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like photography, we've had the same photographer throughout the whole of our Decay lifespan, so to speak. A lad called David Kuzak, who's a mate of the band. He's someone, as a collective, we've all known for a number of years. And pardon me. What was really nice about it, I suppose, he started off with us quite inexperienced, almost learning, you know, just like we were. And it was cool because we kind of went on the same path where, as we improved, he also improved. Now he's at the point where I would be happy to recommend him to any band that was after photography.
I've seen some of
Um,
his work actually on his Instagram. It's really good. Does a lot of black and white shots and stuff, doesn't he?
yeah, which, I mean,
Very good.
if you go back 2 years ago, it's not that it was bad work at all, because it's always impressed me, but it's just cool to see how much he's improved within himself. And I suppose the cool thing is that's going to only serve him better in his own kind of creative sense without the band too. So, you know, when he does go to work with other bands, which I hope he does, because he is so far being pretty limited to just us, which is unfortunate, really. I mean, for his own sake, because I want him to branch out and I want him to go and meet a load of new bands and do his own shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond Kuzak, who, for sure, he's on Twitter. I think it's Kuzak Photography. I'll have to fact check that. I'll throw the link.
Cool. I'll have a little look and, I'll make sure to plug everybody you've mentioned.
Yeah. Beyond him, Ian Sadler, for sure. I have to give a quick mention to Bob Cooper in Leeds, who recorded our demo EPs before we actually recorded the full EP. It wasn't fully quite the sound, which is not a discredit to him. I mean, he's a fucking fantastic at what he does, and he's a really nice guy too. I have a lot of time for Bob Cooper, but I feel like we were speaking about it earlier. Ian Sadler, who did our EP and our album, genius. I mean, I've got nothing but respect for the fella. If there's a band out there with the money spare to record with someone, as a reference point, we travelled all the way from the northwest of England to the furthest kind of southwest you can get, just to record with this guy. It was a all around 5-6 hour journey, and we stayed in a caravan in the time we recorded, and it was hell. But I would do it all over again because the man is a genius in every sense of the word. I mean, he doesn't just record well; he also, his input has and is so important to the sound we have. We wouldn't have that sound without Ian Sadler, and that's just a fact. He should be credited as one of the writers. He really should be. He did more than what I did for the band in every sense of the word. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that lightly at all. But yeah, they're the two that stand out. Kuzak for sure as the photographer. He stuck with us the whole time. Good friend of the band. We play a lot of games with him. He's improved so much too. And if there is any bands watching this who are looking for photographer in the Northwest, hit him up. He's worth it. And he's, relatively low charged considering what he does. If I was him, I'd charge a hell of a lot more. And beyond that, Ian Sadler, who's out of my price range personally, but he's cool. He's a cool guy, and he also lives in a lovely part of Kent, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm sure that was a really cool experience, though. Like actually just going away and recording, opposed to working with someone in Liverpool or Manchester or whatever.
Yeah, we had honest to God, it was like, as a band, it was like almost a bonding experience because over the EP, like I say, we stayed in a caravan, which was so cool. I mean, a lot of fun. I won't go into them too much because I don't want to fucking make us sad.
That's totally fair, man. That's totally fair. But we went up to Dundee to record upcoming release, and it's just cool getting away with your bandmates, your friends, and just you really get to know each other a bit more when you're kind of close quarter.
Definitely, well, it's a different relationship. I think the bandmates you have to any other mates you've got, because it's almost that kind of relationship that you have to have with a girlfriend almost.
It's like raising a kid together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we piss each other off. I'm the worst for getting annoyed. I get wound up all the time. But that's why they do it, because they know I get wound up so easily. But it was cool to do because it showed the strength in us as a band, if you get what I mean, and the connection that we had. I mean, the connection I've got with them lads is beyond anything really. We're very different people in every sense of the word. All of us are very different people, and I think that's what impresses me the most, that we all have that common interest and we all kind of pull together when we absolutely need to. I mean, for the album, this might make me sound the most unprofessional person in the world, but I couldn't play 8 of the 10 songs before we came to Kent to record it. I had to learn them in that week, and normally I'd be absolutely fucked. I'd be absolutely in the cold almost, but it was only the fact that I was so conscious of what it meant to the rest of the lads that we pulled together, and I just thought, right, fuck it, I'm gonna have to crack these out. And I actually got it recorded in about a day and a half in the end, all 10 songs, which for me, I was almost impressed by myself. I didn't think that was gonna be something that I could do. You know what I mean? So that was cool. It's cool. It's cool to get away from everything too, and have a little bit of time together. As you say, you get to know each other a bit better, and I love all the lads. Absolutely love all the lads. I mean, Nathan, Toby, Danny. I won't talk about new members, but um, all of them. We are very different, but I love them to bits. They're like brothers to me, really. They really are.
Yeah, that's the best part, man. It is very much like a family. It's funny you mentioned learning songs last minute because when we were recording, our lead guitarist was like writing a tapping part for a song at 3 in the morning, and we had to be up at like 10 to go and record it, man. Bands are
Well,
honestly something else sometimes, aren't
I-
they?
I'll have to cut this if you don't mind, but I'll tell you
Yeah,
just a quick
of course,
story
man.
about
Yeah.
fucking when we were doing the album. We were
But yeah,
down there.
I'll pause the recording, okay?
Oh, go.
Right.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Quick intermission. Quick intermission.
Oh yeah, that's just what happens, man, when you're sitting there with a water bottle right next to you.
Need a piss, don't you? Need a piss, man. Need a piss.
Well, anyway, the next topic I've got to cover anyway is just like, gig and tour experiences. Obviously, you guys have played Glasgow, which obviously we were talking about before this, with Static Dress, which is,
I know.
they were probably quite a new band when you guys played with them, but they're massive now, aren't they? Safe to say.
I mean, that was their first tour when we played with them, but I don't take anything away from that. I mean, I was a bit, I hate to say it, a bit starstruck, really. I mean, they were that kind of band. So the way it worked, we played 3 shows, which was Glasgow, Leeds, and Liverpool. Right in Glasgow, they were the headline. In Leeds, they were the headline. But in Liverpool, they kind of gave us the headline because it was our hometown show. But they were annoyingly one of them bands where when they were second on, I was watching them in Liverpool going, how the fuck are we meant to compete with this? This is insane, because they're so good. They're so good. And, what was cool about them too, I remember speaking to the bassist, his name escapes me now, unfortunately, but really down to earth guys, like really, really down to earth guys too. And they kind of had it all really, in terms of the look, the image, the sound, the performance, the setup on the stage. It was, you know, it's not. I don't mean to sound this in a cocky way, but I don't normally get, kind of almost struck back
Starstruck.
by a
Yeah.
performance. Yeah, I don't. And in all fairness, I wasn't too aware of the different members and stuff. Like, I'm not very much a prominent person in the scene, so it's very rare I do get starstruck by anyone. But I was just taken aback by just how good the band were, um, in every sense of the word. I mean, they've gone on to do amazingly, and they deserve every minute of it really, because they really are live anyway. I mean, I've had the pleasure to see them live 3 times, and it was a great experience too. I mean, it was the first time we played in Scotland, and we're quite lucky in Leeds and Liverpool to have quite a decent following. So we had quite a lot of people down for the show in Leeds, and in Liverpool especially, we had like about probably close to 100 people there to watch us. So it was a cool experience. But yeah, they're gonna go on to do really, really huge things, and
Honestly,
they
like I
deserve.
said not that long ago, I'm like, in 20 years' time, I genuinely think people at university studying music business are going to read about Static Dress in their marketing. It's insane.
Their marketing, I think that's the thing that impressed me the most about them. I mean, I the way they marketed their shit was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's
I've
the
not
thing
seen a
as well. Like,
band do it like that.
they're so consistent as well. Like, they're still doing it, and it's absolutely flawless.
I love the fact that even they do guess the coordinates of where we're playing. That shit's fucking cool, man. I would never have thought about that shit, and yeah, I was in awe. I was in awe. I really was. And don't get me wrong, I'm not someone who's a fanboy. I'm not someone who's known even Ollie Appleyard throughout the whole scene, and I'm sat here licking his ass because I've got no reason to. I didn't know him before the Static Death tour. I had no idea who he was. Didn't know who Static Death were. So I suppose the point I'm trying to get across, it's not a diss. I was out to see him, but it's more me just kind of getting across that I had no reason to be in all of them. I didn't for all intents and purposes, I didn't know who any of them were. They were just a random band to me until I seen them play. And when I did see them play, I was like, fucking, this is something just a little bit different, And I know I have a band, we've took influence of what they've done. And I know when we next do some shit, we don't want to do the same sound because I think that's disingenuous. And I think it's, I don't want, I try to avoid, it's unavoidable sometimes, right? So like all of our songs are clearly derivative of Title Fight Basements. That's where the influence comes from. It is unavoidable, but even now, I mean, I speak to the lads in the band a lot and my girlfriend a lot about how my favorite artist currently is King Cruel. For the reason he's my favorite artist is because he's a really unique sound. He doesn't copy one specific sound, and that for me is really impressive. I think that's cool because your first few songs you're always going to be sounding similar to someone else because you're going to take influence from something. It's bog standard stuff, but I know when I've spoke to my bandmates, we've all made it clear that I don't want to do that kind of basement Title Fight sound. I want to escape from everything, and I want to do something completely unique, something completely original. Whether that be a success or not, I couldn't really give a fuck. To be fair, I just want to do something where I look at and go, shit, like I look at the likes of David Bowie. David Bowie's probably my favorite artist, bang on. He's my biggest influence as well, in terms of being a musician. My dad brought me up on him. I think he's, in every sense of the word, the pinnacle of what a musician should be. People might disagree with that, but when I look at him, I just think, my God, this is incredible. And it's for the reason that he didn't try and copy anything. He just did his own thing, and he just put himself out there, dressing in fucking tights in the 70s, probably getting called a fucking, gay and all these kinds of shitty homophobic slurs in the time when it wasn't accepted. I mean, he came over to England and dressed as a woman, which is incredible. It's incredible to do that in the 70s. I mean, it takes bollocks now to do that, let alone in the 70s, And although that's not what I want to do personally, because that would feel disingenuous for me, because it's not something that I would do, but I just want to kind of encapsulate that feeling of uniqueness, if you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah, like obviously, like just authenticity, I guess.
Yeah. Albeit it's always gonna, I mean, I literally did my dissertation, so going off topic a little bit here, my degree was on screenwriting. I kind of did my degree on writing films and movies and stuff like that. And I did my dissertation on the basis of how no movie idea is original, right? And I think that could also be kind of pushed over to music, right? I think in this day and age, it's almost an impossibility to make something truly unique. But I think as a musician, you've got to push yourself as close as you can to do something that's not been heard before. I think that's so important. And if you do something that you take inspiration from, I don't judge anyone for that. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a place for that too, because there's a reason why stuff works. If I listen to a pop punk band that sounds a bit like Neck Deep, I don't look down on that, because there's a place for that, because it works. It's a good sound, and there's a place for it. But I don't know about you, but for me personally, I would just love the idea of doing something that just in its own right is just a little bit different. Whether it be derivative of, and it always will be derivative of certain artists. You can't avoid that. But in the same sense I said about King Cruel, when I listen to King Cruel's music, I sit there and think, my God, you've took aspects from the punk scene, the jazz scene, the rap scene, all these different things, and you fucking just put them together, and that's cool as fuck. That's a cool thing to do, and I kind of want to encapsulate that kind of feeling too.
I definitely think you
Yeah,
guys are obviously capable of blending more stuff, like you said. You're still a young band, and you've got
still
more
learning
releases
to.
to come. Yeah,
Yeah. But going back to the tours and that, though, we have been lucky. I mean, we've unfortunately missed out on a European tour this summer because of COVID. We were planning on doing a few dates in Europe, which is a shame. Would have been cool. Would have been a nice thing to, tell the kids that I'd done a tour in Europe and stuff like that. If
You know,
nothing
man,
else.
hopefully when, everything kind of settles and live music is a reality and, UK EU relations are somewhat manageable for the music industry.
Fuck knows.
Yeah, yeah. Just got to keep on kind of hoping it'll get to that stage. But, I'm very confident you guys will manage to get over to Europe at some point.
I hope so. The only fear that I have personally is that with what's gone on, I wanted to, after that album dropped, all I wanted to do was tour and tour and tour and tour and tour, to push it. I want everyone to know about Decay. I want every I want every country in the world to know about it, whether they like it or not. I want the hate as much as the like. If it's a view, it's a view to me, and it doesn't. Not that it means that much to me, but I just want to spread that word, and I want the feedback too. I want to hear people say that's shite, and I want to hear people say that's amazing. That's changed my life. I think it's so important, I suppose. Right? It's key, and I just think it's a shame that when we did drop the album, we haven't really been able to capitalize on any kind of hype, and it's been, in my opinion, a bit of a detriment to us. We definitely will as soon as we can. We're going to be jumping straight on the road. I know we are. We've got plans. We have got a new lineup, which is what we're putting together. Like I mentioned, I'm not going to go into detail about this because it's not really my situation to talk about, of course. But we did have to kick a member of the band out, so we've had to have a reshuffle of members and get a couple more people in. Which, in my opinion, has been good for us. I think it's been to our benefit. I think it's made us stronger, and the music we're writing now, I think it's a lot better than what we were doing before, in my opinion. A lot more unique, a lot more individual, less kind of put in a particular scene, if you get what I mean. Rather than pushing for an emo kind of sound, it's, I don't give a fuck about the sound. Let's just do what we want to do, right? Which is what I would rather do. But yeah, as soon as we can, we're going to be touring the shitload. Definitely through the UK. But yeah, the experience I've had before that was, it was the first time I've ever been out the city playing shows, and it was incredible. I've never experienced anything like it. It was, I mean, I can't really put it into words, to be honest with you. I mean, just a feeling of being in a car together with a few cans in the back, and we're just having a few bevies and on our way to Leeds or Sheffield or Glasgow or wherever it might be, with a few of the lads, and we're having a few bevies. It's unreal. That to me is the pinnacle of what being in a band is about. I think it's bonding. It's like a holiday. That's how I describe it. It's better than a holiday. You might be going to Yorkshire, which is pissing down in rain, but you stood there going, I'm with lads I love, I'm playing music I love, and whether there's 5 people or 105 people, it doesn't really matter, because I'm having a good time with it. If you get what I mean, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure. But
Yeah, I get that, man. Like when we got to play Liverpool for the first time, obviously being a Glasgow band, it was like going home for me.
yeah,
Playing songs in front of like my mum and my brothers and stuff that I normally wouldn't have got to do. It's just a real feeling, just getting out of just your little bubble for a while.
definitely. I think the travel down too. I always describe any gigs I play, my least enjoyable part is the gig itself when we play. In you know, in a weird way, that's the part I least enjoy. It's the before and after I enjoy the most. I absolutely thrive for the atmosphere of us all being excited and like, we're going to Glasgow, we're
Yeah,
playing a show,
exactly, man.
this kind of thing. And afterwards, when you've got different people coming up to you, you're meeting different people and they're saying to you really lovely things about the band, and I couldn't take that for granted. I mean, the stuff it does for your confidence, it's incredible. And as someone who does struggle with the confidence, it's been, uh, I put that down to part of the reason why I met my girlfriend. I don't think without the band and the confidence that enabled me to have, I don't think I would have been able to meet my girlfriend and being successful in quote unquote in the way I have, I suppose, in us being together. And I just think it's the same thing I always say to people, like, being in the band has so many benefits that you don't even realize
Ones
without
that aren't
the,
even musical sometimes, I guess. Like it
yeah, not
gives you
at
a
all
massive
music.
part of identity and stuff.
Definitely you feel belonging to something, you feel confident about something, and I feel like I'm not alone in this. So many people struggle with confidence. Like, it's not an uncommon thing for our generation too. You know, it's actually really common for people to have low self-esteem and to struggle with where their place is in the world. But I know for me personally, I look at what we've done as a band, and that gives me that security and thinking, actually, I don't need to be so hard on myself. Maybe I do need to give myself a bit more credit, which is you can't buy that shit. You actually can't buy that shit. Like, this is so hard to come by. People spend thousands on therapy to get that feeling, you know, and it wouldn't be the same for every single person, I'm sure. But I would always, like I said, I would always recommend anyone to pick up an instrument, start a band. Don't give a fuck about where you end up. Don't give a fuck about how successful you get. The benefits mentally it'll give you is untouched. Untouched.
100% agree, man. I think just having a creative outlet of any type, it mostly has benefits. Also, it can be quite
Yeah.
terrifying, bones exposed, that kind of thing, but it can be so rewarding.
I think it pushes you out your comfort zone too, which is important, because I'm someone who doesn't generally go out the comfort zone. You know, as a general rule, I'm a safety kind of guy, and without that being flung into a situation where I'm not just out my comfort zone, but I'm at times I've been stood in front of 70, 80, 100 people, and I've then got to perform in front of them. It's a terrifying experience, but it's amazing too, because you come off that stage thinking, wow, I was able to do that. You know, that, and it's not just limited to a band thing. I mean, even when I've been writing films and stuff like that, as you say, that creative outlet, I think it's integral. You know, anyone who is struggling with mental stuff, it's not going to cure your problems having an outlet. It never will. There's stuff you need to do alongside that. You need to work on yourself. You need to maybe go to therapy. You need to do these kind of things. But having that creative outlet, it's amazing, and it really does push you to want to better yourself, to want to work on yourself. Because, you know, for me personally, when I was in Decay and when we did start to do a little bit better, I was like, I don't want to be a trouble for these lads in this band. I want to work on myself. I want to, you know, be the best person I can be. I want to be the most confident version of myself, because it's important that I'm giving that impression off to the people who are watching us live, you know.
Definitely, you hit the nail on the head, man. So obviously, it can be a massively good thing, but it needs to be accompanied by other aspects of life, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just, you can't just focus solely on that. I mean, for me personally, without going too deep, what, 3 in the morning, you know,
It is, yeah. It's three in
three in
the
the morning,
morning, and we're
ridiculous.
we're talking about bands and tours, and it's great.
God knows where we're
This
going,
is the
but yeah, you
life.
know, yeah. For me personally, like, that could never have been the sole thing. Like, you know, I personally went to therapy myself, and it was a massive positive in my life, because without that, I probably wouldn't have been where I am now. You know, and I think you do need to accompany it with that stuff. But I just think having that creative outlet, whatever it might be, whether it be painting, whether it be music, whether it be writing, whatever it might be. And thing that's important as well, doesn't matter whether you're shit at it or good at it. It really doesn't matter. Like, it, the most important thing to me is how it makes you feel. You could be the worst writer in the world. You could be absolutely awful, but if that's what gives you that drive to make you feel better, fucking keep it up, because you're only gonna get better. You know, you're only ever gonna get better at that stuff. It all comes with practice too, and it's important to remember that, I think, too, because my girlfriend right now, she's learning the bass with me, and she's a lot of the time disheartened about, she compares herself to me playing the bass, and I've played for 13, 14 years now. And she looks at me and goes, oh, fucking, it's actually almost frustrating watching you just, blah, 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 you know, do all this mad shit. And I'm still struggling to do this. And I'm like, fuck that. You got to start somewhere. You're only going to get better. You know, you're only ever going to get better.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, I think that's fine. You just need to keep at it. Like, you guys are clearly doing that. And I'm sure you're going to explore so many different creative avenues. Have you ever kind of thought about how your degree might come in handy in other creative aspects of the band?
Yeah, I mean, not just a band. I mean, in on face value, it's a useless degree, but I use it to my advantage even in a corporate sense, in the work sense. You know, like, if I have an interview, sell me shit based on my degree, because to me, someone doing a music degree on the face of it might be useless. Someone doing a screenwriting degree might be useless, but to me it's not, because it allows you to access parts of your brain that other people would never be able to, right? And especially in music too. I mean, for me personally, we've been writing our next set of songs, and I won't go into too much detail because it's so far off being done, but I've been responsible for writing a narrative for the song, right? So we want to, rather than doing an emotional track by track album like what we've been doing so far, I had a word with our singer Danny, and I said to him, listen, I want to do a concept album. I want to do an album solely based around almost like that. Did you ever listen to that Arctic Monkeys album, the last one they put out, the what's it called?
I don't know the album you're on about. It's the one that sounded really similar to Alex's solo stuff, didn't it? Like,
Yeah,
that's what people are saying.
do you know what's the name of it? Yeah, Tranquility, Tranquility, Tranquility Boat Hotel. Anyways, I think the point I'm making, I listened to that and even some low stuff, shit like this, and I thought, oh, you know what, that's cool as fuck, that concepty kind of thing. So I took that screenwriting aspect of my life, that narrative aspect, and even though I was trained in a academic sense to write screenplays solely, that was all I was trained to do. I've now passed that forward into a music sense and going, actually, I've been taught how to write a really good narrative. Like I'm really good at writing a narrative. That's what my strengths are. That's probably one of my key strengths now in writing a narrative. That fully transfers into the concept album kind of thing that we're kind of looking to do. And in a similar sense, you know, as I say, anyone maybe listening who's doing what they might think is a useless degree, just like I did, is it fuck useless? I mean, big that shit up in an interview like I do. I mean, like I had an interview the other week and I got the job for it really, but they asked me about this kind of screenwriting thing, and I, you know, my first point of view was turning around and going, you know what, like it allows me to think in a different aspect. What you need in a social media aspect. How can I make short films to increase the business? I think all this creative stuff, it doesn't just impact in other creative aspects. It can have a really big impact in even shit that you think is not what you're about in a corporate sense.
Yeah, I
If you
guess
get
like
what I'm saying.
like with all creative things, like you learn a lot of transferable skills. I mean,
Definitely.
look at this. I've never recorded a podcast in my life until this week, and I guarantee it's going to do the world of good.
Definitely. No, definitely. And I think even when you go to, say, for instance, you ended up working for, I don't know, a fucking payroll company, right? The shit that you're learning via music, via podcasting, via, right now we're interacting, right? We're just, you know, as
Networking, communicating, that kind of thing. Yeah.
exactly, all that shit's transferable. And I always see so many people who kind of put their skills down because they think it only directly relates to a creative sense, which is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I mean, if you're a musician, you've probably done more networking than any hedge fund manager has in their life, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And
Definitely, man.
they wouldn't realize that because they look at that kind of job and go, "Oh, that's not me. That's not for me." Which, don't get me wrong, like the job I do, it's not my passion, but you're mad if you think I won't use every aspect of what I've learned through music, screenwriting, being a creative person. I'm gonna use all that shit to make me the most money I can, because that's the fucking aim of the game at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not a materialistic guy, and I'm not a capitalist by any sense, but my dad always makes the point to say to me, money makes the world go around, right? You need to use this shit to your advantage, and I always will, you know. And I think people should. It actually breaks me heart a bit when I see people going, "Ah, you know, if I don't get a job in acting, then I'm not going to get a job." Oh, fuck that. You're probably not going to get a job in acting. You're probably not going to be a famous musician. That's the reality of life. Like, if it happens, that's fantastic. But you're in a 1% of people that happens for. That's the reality of where we live in, right? And the only people that will sit there and tell you to follow your dreams are fucking people who have already achieved the dreams, because they've got nothing to lose, right? They've got fuck all to lose. Whereas the way I look at it, the reason I see my music as a hobby is solely because I know for a fact if I don't put my all into a corporate kind of realistic sense, I'm going to be fucked. I'm going to be absolutely skint for the rest of my life living with my mum and dad. And I don't want that. When I have kids, I want to be rich. I want to make all kinds of fucking money to give them everything. And I want to give my girlfriend a lovely house and a lovely car and all this kind of shit. And I'm going off topic a little bit here, I suppose.
No, it's definitely on topic, man. It's all relevant.
I just think it's a bad mindset where people. It's good to be determined to follow your dreams, right? And it's good to put a lot of energy in, but I think it's also important to be a realist and go, you know what, this mightn't happen for me. This mightn't be a thing where I make millions and millions of pounds off, and that's okay, right? I seen a good quote from someone on a interview somewhere. I can't remember the fella's name, but he turned around and said, "Do you think a tax lawyer kind of job? Do you think he grew up as a young child with a passion for tax? Not a chance. The only reason he had a passion for that shit is because it enables him to live his life, right? Like that's it. And you might be solely a creative person, because I would believe me to be in that mold of person, but I think it's important to use that shit in your day-to-day job life too. Work your way up in that shit. Like, take that. My advice always, take that more serious in a sense than what you're doing creatively, because you've got to be a lucky person for the creative project to take off. It's very unlikely, very, very unlikely to take off. It's almost impossible when you look at the odds. Do you know what I mean? It's as likely as winning the lottery. If it does, fantastic. But use that skills that you've honed from that in your personal job life too.
Yeah, definitely, man. It can bleed into other aspects of your life, as I think it often does. It's such a massive part of your identity.
Definitely.
But yeah, moving on anyway, man. I just want to touch up on some, like, I guess if you could have anybody on tour with Decay, like anybody at all, it could be a massive variety of genres. Who would you pick?
King Cruel, always.
I think I saw that one coming. Yeah. Would
Yeah,
you
I
have any
mean,
other like support acts?
Pixies.
Pixies.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about the Pixies I like is they're so simple. And what I do quite like about Pixies too is they were post-punk before post-punk was a thing, if you kind of get what I mean. They were the Joy Division of the 80s. Even though Joy Division were operating in the 80s, I suppose, but they were I can't really describe what I like about it, but beyond them, if we're talking Dead or Alive too, Bowie. I mean, Bowie, I wouldn't want him to support me. I'd be ashamed if he supported us. I'd want him to be the main headliner if I could, you know. In all fairness, I mean, there's plenty. I mean, another, great set of artists. I wouldn't put them on our tour because it wouldn't suit the vibe, I suppose. But Wu-Tang Clan.
That would actually be wild. Just Decaying in Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah, I mean, I actually seen Method Man and Redman live, but I don't know, Wu-Tang Clan, Method Man. I'm not the most clued up with rap, but 90s rap, especially Wu-Tang Clan. 36 Chambers, I think it's my favourite album of all time. The lyrics in it, the honesty, the brutal rawness of it, just really strikes me. I think it's fucking cool as fuck. And Method Man as a rapper too, he's probably to me the most. I mean, just a little quick fact, on Biggie's debut album, he didn't have any featured artist by Method Man on one song, and he's the only artist I've heard that could go back to back with Biggie as a rapper. I don't want to go off a tangent here, but yeah, Method Man's got the best flow in the game, of all time, in my opinion. But yeah, if I was gonna pick a three, I'd go King Cruel, Wu Tang, and if we're saying Dead or Alive, Pixies.
That's a
Oh,
song. That Bowie.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. Yeah, you can't go wrong, can you? Yeah, you can't go wrong.
That would be a banger. I can just imagine you guys like opening the set with obviously like some of the songs off the EP and the album, and then up next
I'd
with
feel ashamed, man.
came on.
I wouldn't want to play our songs next to them because I'd be like, oh my god, these are fucking too good for us. In a sense.
Just do a full set of Wu-Tang Clan covers, but like
Mate.
in the style of Decay. Have you ever
So
actually thought
when
about doing something like that? Like, you know, just taking a completely like spontaneous song that you love and just giving it your spin?
it wouldn't happen because especially Danny, I don't think he would let it happen. But I would love it. I mean, my music taste is quite varied. I'd love to do an album cover. That's something I've been trying to push quite hard.
Man. Yeah, that could be like a cool little collab in the future with somebody you really, really love but wouldn't expect on a song. It's happened before.
I think, like I said, like the
Jay-Z
one
and
artist
Linkin Park, was it? That was a pretty,
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, you know, maybe
I'd love that shit. Absolutely love that shit.
Decay feat Wu-Tang Clan. Never know.
Mate, if that was ever a thing, I would be that would be actually starstruck. I mean, like I said, I did actually have the pleasure to see Method Man and Redman live in Liverpool, and it was the best concert I've ever been to. I mean, without getting too fucking drug heavy, the whole show was hotbox. Everyone was smoking weed in there. Method Man and Redman came on to the stage smoking weed. You know, my mate actually. Feel free to cut this out if this is a bit too heavy, but no, you can keep recording. I don't mind keeping this in. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I don't mind, but just in case you think you want to cut that, but yeah, my mate actually had to. We pre-rolled 20 spliffs, and we put them all into a cigarette like kind of pouch, and he put the cigarette pouch between his arse cheeks to get them in.
Oh no!
Yeah, which was rough, but no, it was cool. It was a fucking cool gig, man. Yeah, it was probably one of my favorite gigs ever. They were like, the energy they had was cool. Yeah, it went off.
This is Monochrome Music Media exclusive.
18 plus, PG-13.
Yeah, oh, absolutely 18 plus. Yeah, yeah.
I've had to tone myself down, to be honest with you, Jamie. I was even though you said, "Oh, you can swear," and then I thought, right, I'm gonna try and be good. I'm gonna try and be. I think I've mentioned that at the lads in the band. I'm probably the I hate to say it, sounds like a fucking bit of a meme, but the wild one, I suppose.
That's cool, man. Every band has them, to be fair. Honestly, man, thank you so much for coming on. We've covered a lot of really cool stories and topics. You guys have had a very vibrant, I guess, start to the career, because I know there's plenty more to come. You guys are just getting started.
For sure.
So, yeah, thank you so much for chatting to me.
No, honestly, Jamie, thanks for having me.
And do you want to just plug all your socials and stuff so everybody knows where to find you?
I won't plug my own because fuck that. I don't want to be too together.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just plug the band, man. That's cool.
Yeah, Decay the band. That's I think that's Twitter, Instagram. But also, fuck me plug. If you find us, fantastic. If you don't like us, feel free to give us a little bit of ace. I love it. It's great. It's all good. No, but honestly, Jamie, nice one for having us. And also,
thank you so much, man.
Before we finish, let me plug your band, The Tear, Delta. And also, he's a fucking nice guy too. He's a fucking good guy.
Thank you, man.